I just bought this 2001 Volvo V70 for $1,500. You might think that price sounds right, but get this. This one is a T5 with a 2.3 liter turbo 5-cylinder. And this one has the rare 5-speed manual. The door is damaged, but if you open it up, you can see that on the inside of the car, there's pretty much no damage to the frame of the door or anything else. This is the only part of the rest of the car that seems to be damaged. The first order of business was to get the car cleaned out. This car was used by the previous owner's high school age daughter, so obviously she didn't take the best care of it. But it wasn't completely trashed either. I would call this a well-used car. After that, I got the car up on the lift and tried to confirm what the owner told me about the tie rods, which, as you can tell by the fact that it moves side to side, that's the problem. So I have those on order, and on the next video, I'll show you how to install them. I just bought this 2001 Volvo V70 for $1,500. This one is a T5 with a 247 horsepower inline 5 with a 5-speed manual. I got the car up in the air and discovered there was play at 9 and 3 but none at 12 and 6, so that typically means tie rod. I ordered some new ones on Rock Auto and got started on installing them. After you get the car up in the air, the first thing is to loosen up this nut against the tie rod. Then you detach the outer tie rod from the wheel hub. After unscrewing the tie rod, I had to pull off the boot, which is really annoying because this clip is hard to get to. Then I tightened this inner tie rod clamping tool to the inner tie rod so I could unscrew it. After it's clamped down, you use a ratchet to undo it. Breaker bar, 1/2 inch extension, 1/2 inch extension, 1/2 inch to 3/8, 3/8 extension, 3/8 extension, inner tie rod clamp. And it fucking worked. One of the tie rods was a pain in the ass to get off, so I finally got it off after I stopped asking nicely. Putting the new tie rods in is just the same process in reverse. Just make sure when you take them off, you count how many turns you did. After replacing the tie rods, there was less play at 9 and 3, but I noticed the CV boot was broken, so we're replacing that in the next video. Bye. I bought this Volvo V70 for $1,500 and my goal is to fix it up to be a reliable daily driver. When replacing the tie rods, I discovered the CV boot was torn, so I bought a new one as well as some other parts, including rotors, pads, and a new wheel hub. First order of business was to get the wheels off, and then the caliper, which I didn't show, and then I went and checked out this brake pad because it was making a lot of noise and discovered that whoever installed them put the pads on backwards. I'm in utter disbelief at what I just witnessed. But we move on and get the ABS sensor removed from the knuckle. After removing the axle bolt from the CV, we try to pull the CV joint out of the wheel hub. Here you can see the torn CV boot and all the axle grease it flung everywhere. After a solid 15 minutes of fighting with this damn thing, I finally got the axle out and moved on to replacing the wheel hub. I didn't know whether the wheel hub was bad or not, but I figured since I was already in there, it made sense to replace it as well. After another 15 minutes of fighting to get this damn CV axle in the transmission, I got that in as well and then hooked up to the wheel hub. I put everything back together and took it for a test drive. The car felt better, but there was definitely still a couple things wrong, especially when it came to shifting and getting started from a stop. The likely problem was engine mounts, so I bought a couple and we'll be changing those next time. I bought this Volvo V70 for $1,500 and my goal is to fix it up to be a reliable daily driver. I replaced the driver's side CV axle and wheel hub as well as rotors and pads for both front wheels. I took it out for a drive and noticed that the car was clunking every time I started from a stop or when I shifted. Looking through the forums, that told me that my engine mounts were probably shot. I ordered new lower mounts off of Rock Auto and started installing them. The location of the top nut for these motor mounts was a pretty good indication of how difficult this install was going to be. After loosening this nut, you will need a magnet to pull this nut out because you cannot get your hand down there. For the rear lower engine mount, you need to pull off the engine strut bar and disconnect it from the top mount. With the strut bar off, you can access the rear engine mount. The rear mount is even worse to get to than the front. After getting the car up in the air and lifting the engine, I found that the engine mounts were definitely toast, especially the front one, which was completely blown. Unfortunately, I had my jack stand set too high, so my jack couldn't get the engine high enough to pull the mounts out. Using this sketchy setup, I was able to lift the car up and lower the jacks and set it back down on the jacks at their lower height. The front mount bolt was easy to get to, but the rear was an absolute pain in the ass. Access to the rear bolt was too small for you to get the actual socket itself through, but you could get the extension through. So you had to put the extension through and then attach the socket on the other side of the extension using as much dexterity as you could possibly muster. You then had to push against the sway bar while trying to line up the socket on the bolt. Yes, the WD-40 was absolutely necessary. This is what the new motor mount looks like compared to the old one that was completely shot. After getting the new ones in and bolted down, you then had to slowly lower the engine back onto the mounts. This process was tedious because you had to have the mounts oriented perfectly as you dropped the engine down. Not only did you need the bolt hole to line up, but you also needed that little metal tab to go right into the hole. With the car back down on the ground, the last order of business was getting the top nut back onto the new motor mounts through the engine. I didn't have a magnetic socket, so I used a piece of paper towel to hold the nut onto the socket as I lowered it down to try to align it with the bolt. I didn't record the drive after, but the motor mounts definitely helped and the car drove so much smoother. And this is what we'll fix on the next episode. Thanks, bye. I bought this Volvo V70 for $1,500 and my goal is to fix it up to be a reliable daily driver. Last time we replaced the blown engine mounts, which helped immensely with how the car drove. I took the car to get aligned and they told me they couldn't do it because they thought the left front strut was bent. So what did I do? I ordered more parts. In addition to 2 front struts, I also ordered a left control arm as well as 2 sway bar end links. I didn't show the install of the sway bar end links, but they were super easy. It was just 2 nuts on each side. I disconnected the strut from the knuckle and then disconnected it from the top mount as well. Thanks to young me's stupidity, I never returned the AutoZone spring compressor from when I did the springs on my Mustang. I'm also happy that for some reason I bought these goofy socket wrenches from Harbor Freight because they were exactly what I needed to get this strut taken apart. Once everything was off, I put the old spring on the new strut and tried to put everything back together without having the spring twist itself into the wrong spot. And not gonna lie, it was a lot harder than I expected. While I was reattaching the strut, I had one of the nuts fall off into the engine bay. Thankfully I had this magnetic wand. Never work on a car without one of these. After putting the strut back in, I had to try to pull the control arm out and man, this shit was not easy. After about half an hour of fighting with seized bolts and maneuvering things, I finally got the damn thing out. I swapped the steering bump stop from the old control arm to the new one. Then I spent another half hour maneuvering everything to get it all to come back together. Working on this car has been pretty hard so far, but thankfully we're at the tail end of the suspension work, and the rest of what we need to do is either cosmetic or maintenance. And lucky for me, I found my car's twin at a junkyard the other day. See you next time. I bought this Volvo V70 for $1,500 and my goal is to fix it up to be a reliable daily driver. One of the main reasons this car was so cheap was this smashed-in door from an at-fault accident. The previous owner chose not to fix it, so he sold the vehicle as is. At first, the damage looks really bad, but after I popped the door open from the inside and inspected the door frame, everything looked pretty solid. Because passion red is such a rare color for these Volvo V70s, I gave up on trying to find a color matched door. My goal was to at least have a door that worked so that I could paint match at a later time. I had this mismatched blue door installed for about a month and a half, but then as I was looking for other parts for this car, I happened across my car's twin at the junkyard. I found another 2001 Volvo V70 at the junkyard, however this one was an automatic. With the door in good condition, I snagged it from this car and brought it home. The process of taking these doors off isn't too difficult, it's just 3 bolts and a wiring harness. The connector for the wiring harness is pretty far inside the door, so you have to pull it out quite a bit. With everything unbolted, the next step is to pull the door off the hinges. Installing the new door is pretty simple with the exception of getting the holes to line up for the hinges. With the hinges lined up, it's time to start bolting everything together. With everything bolted together, it's time to give it a test shut. Here I noticed that everything was shutting a little bit lower, so I had to go back and readjust the door. I loosened up the bolts, I got underneath the door and tilted it while I tightened everything up so that it would shut better. With everything tightened up, I gave it another test shut and well bam, second try, it did perfect. Ta-da! The window even works too. With the new door on, the car no longer looks like Frankenstein, and I'm so much happier. Also, if you have a blue Volvo and you need a door, let me know.